Hey, I'm John Morehouse, founder of Nuon.
John, we're so happy to have you here. How's it going?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's going great. It's been an awesome day. How about you?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's been amazing. I've learned so much. I've gotten to talk to some amazing people and learn about things all across the stack. It's been super fun. How has your experience been at Enterprise Ready Conf? Presenting and talking with people about your product.
Yeah, it's been amazing. So we actually have not sponsored a conference until this one.
Oh,
So it's
cool.
our inaugural kind of company
Welcome.
sponsorship, and it was kind of cool because I know Michael. He's an investor in our company, and he's somebody who kind of like I look up to in WorkOS because they you all really understand how to unlock customers and sort of help get customers into production. And I often talk about this like as a B2B SaaS infrastructure startup. It's so hard, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
and and so the reason why we're excited about the conference is actually like the sort of, concentration of people at this specific sort of venue are all thinking about like enterprise challenges, like
Yes.
security, privacy, especially with AI and things like that. So it's kind of a cool mix of folks.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about how Nuon fits into the modern stack.
Yeah, totally. So at Nuon, we're offering something that's called Bring Your Own Cloud. So Bring Your Own Cloud is this idea where you as an ISV or a software vendor can package your app and then deploy it into a customer's cloud account. So that means like a customer's
Interesting.
AWS, GCP, Azure account. And so it kind of feels like SaaS, right? Like the customer doesn't have to manage the application. They don't need to like deploy your servers or whatever it is or your Helm charts. But as a customer, they actually own the infrastructure. They own the AWS account running it. And so
Interesting.
it's kind of like imagine you went to slack.com and instead of like Slack having like all of your data on their servers, you like press the button, installed Slack in your own cloud account, and like you owned all that data.
Interesting. So you own the data, but they still manage the like deployment and maintenance of the software.
Exactly. Like it looks and feels like SaaS,
Wild.
but you own everything underneath it. It's like almost like a modern take on on-prem, but
Yeah.
for like designed for a world where like everybody has AWS accounts or GCP accounts or whatever it is.
Sure. That's interesting. Now I'm curious, like kind of backing up a little bit.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that took us, I guess, directed us out of on-prem into kind of like the modern SaaS?
Oh, totally. I mean, it was, from my perspective, I think it's totally about, you think about 2007 AWS launches,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, you have options. And if you think about on-prem, every customer environment is like slightly different.
Yeah.
And so as a software vendor, you could like hand people, disk at the time or whatever it is to install your app, but you don't have any control. You don't have any way of like creating a good user experience.
Yeah.
'07 happens. It's been like 18 years at this point, right? And like all of a sudden, anybody can spin up a server, and you see all these sort of like trends and kind of themes of Cloud Sense. And so, a lot of the problems kind of stem from usability and just
Yeah.
the sheer capacity. And this idea of like, hey, if we have like one compute environment that we can put all of our customers in, we can just build new and improved experiences, and that's kind of led to things like mobile AI, like this sort of like big data movement. And ultimately like SaaS, cloud SaaS is the default, right? Like you go to slack.com, right, and sign up. You go to, LinkedIn or whatever and use it. And I think, that works really well for like large B2C consumer
Yeah.
applications. But now we're seeing this kind of pushback where, businesses are like, hey, the software's so critical, we rely on it. That's why we're buying it. But as a result, we also kind of now want to put it in our own account. We want some control over it. And so BYOC is kind of interesting because it's like this hybrid between the two. It's like kind of like cloud SaaS, kind of like on-prem. And if done right, it should deliver on this promise of like being in your account, being secure, being owned. When Monday happens, when like AWS falls over or whatever, like you're not necessarily taken down. You have some controls, but you're also, not really sacrificing that user experience as well.
Yeah, yeah. Now, is your system like targeted specifically for deployments on AWS, or are you going like multi-cloud? How's this working?
Yeah, so when we set out to build Nuon, we were like, doing this is hard, right? Like,
Yeah.
like deploying into your customer account, you can package your stuff and all that. It's just a bunch of hard problems. We knew from the early days that we had to nail two things. One, any application had to work with it, and it had to work with any cloud. And a couple years in, that's kind of what we've delivered on. And so you can bring any kind of app to Nuon, and you can deploy to any cloud with Nuon. What we see though is like actually the hardest part of this is like that security contract. If you think about it, like as a customer, you don't want to know about the software vendor's app. You know about your environment, as a software vendor, like a developer, you know about your app, but you have no idea what's in the customer environment.
Yeah.
And so we see ourselves as this like connective tissue between the two,
Okay.
where instead of you having to know both, we kind of meet in the middle. And so Nuon is this like kind of central way to push into customer accounts securely and enables this model where like the vendor doesn't have access to the customer account, neither
Mhm.
does Nuon, but the customer also doesn't have to learn the vendor's application. And it
Yeah.
can kind of work regardless of the customer's, cloud environment.
How would someone know if their kind of company or application is really well suited for Nuon?
The answer that I give is if you are selling your software to other companies, generally it's interesting for you. And the reason for that is it's not just about enterprise unlock and like enterprise readiness. It's also about like a business model, new kind of capabilities, integrations. If you think about like modern developer tools or infrastructure products or data products, they're sort of measured as valuable. Like, hey, can you solve sort of enterprise problems?
Yeah.
But also like, can you integrate with all of my data?
Mhm.
Can I build new things with you? And so any of those types of things that you're selling to other software companies, generally BYOC starts to make a lot of sense. And I think that what we're seeing is like it's still early, like this is an early trend.
Yeah.
I think in the last like 3 to 4 years, we've seen some of the big companies start to offer bring your own cloud. And it's moving away from just being like only for the enterprise and actually kind of moving down market as people realize like this is like a new architecture primitive,
Yeah.
right? And this is a new way to think about software.
What was one of the biggest challenges in going, developing something that was multi-cloud?
I mean, honestly, the hardest part of our business is the fact that we help the vendor deploy to the customer account, but the whole premise is like you want to make the thing feel like SaaS, but you can't just give up God mode access or like
Yeah.
root
Yeah.
access. And that's the hard part. It's like, how do you basically, let a developer run their application in a foreign account they don't have access to without sort of breaking that security model? And I see it all the time where it's like, hey, a vendor can kind of like hand somebody like a Helm chart or a Terraform and like a Terraform chart, and it's like a big sort of, security hole, right? Like they
Yeah.
have no idea what they're running. And like figuring out that sort of contract where, hey, the software's in the customer's account, but it's secure still, is a really hard set of challenges to overcome.
Yeah. For someone who wants to pitch this to like their enterprise customers, what are a couple of the most attractive things that enterprises are like really excited about with this idea?
Totally. With this idea of bring your own cloud, I think the enterprises are kind of interested in a few. So the first one is actually data privacy and ownership. So the idea is that they can actually use your software, plug data into it,
Hmm.
and it's actually still on their premise. They have control over it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That also leads to like data sovereignty and like owning their data and understanding like where their data lives. I think the next one is actually this sort of like integration and like innovators kind of dilemma, meaning that like if you're selling to an enterprise and you can bypass the red tape of trying to use like a cloud SaaS and you say,
Yeah.
hey, here's our app, deploy it in your account. As part of the POC, you can suddenly talk to internal data warehouses, internal
Interesting.
databases,
Yeah.
and like integrate with new systems. And so I think those are kind of the things that like the enterprises get excited by.
Yeah.
And it's like, kind of takes some of the risk away from innovation. If you think about like the Fortune 50 or the Fortune, 500 or whatever, they're starting to feel like maybe they're like behind or that they want to catch up with this like innovation. And, in this bring your own cloud model, they can try the new AI systems. They
Yeah.
can kind of take more risk because they have some controls over it.
It sounds like it brings the developers out of a lot of risk that you may have with SaaS as well. I mean, is this a very attractive model to some of your customers who
Well,
want to build this way?
absolutely. And so that's why like when you ask like, hey, why is like what's the hardest part of what we've done?
Yeah.
The hard part is like, well, how do you kind of like remove trust from the equation altogether?
Yeah.
Right. And if like
Yeah.
if you move the software from the developer's account to the customer's account and like the developer still can like touch the account directly,
Yeah.
you haven't solved any problems, right?
Right.
Like you still have to trust the developer.
You just give them another door to walk through, right?
Exactly. And so that's where it's kind of interesting. Like done right, you should be able to give all of your customers a SaaS-like experience without those customers having to trust you. And that's like a really, really interesting kind of way to think about it. And it kind of with safeguards unlocks a lot of innovation and new products that might otherwise like not be able to be used.